alone, I have been asked probably 18 times as to whether when you remove something from your credit report, do you still have to pay for it? And unfortunately, the answer to this is yes. But if you just think about this for a moment, it will make sense, okay? Just imagine a world, just imagine an economy, just imagine a United States where you can just dispute something, get it removed from your credit report, and then not have to pay for it, right? Why pay for your credit cards? Why pay for your water bill? Why pay for your student loans? Why pay for anything for that matter? I mean, it's just as simple as sending out a couple disputes and getting it removed, right? The IRS wouldn't exist, right? Debt collection companies wouldn't exist. Lawsuits for this wouldn't exist. The credit bureaus wouldn't exist because it would be consequentless. Why put it on your credit report to begin with? That is my question. All right. So yes, I understand. We want to remove these things from our credit report and we want it to be quick. We want it to be overnight. We want to do these things and go out and get our credit and do it all over again, right? But it's not as simple as that. And if it were, this entire thing would be a little bit different. Hey, Kristen, if you remove this XYZ account from my credit report, do I actually still have to pay for it? Who's telling you that? All right, so look at this example here. We have two different sides to this, right? We have the credit bureaus who report the debt. They are literally in the data business, right? They obtain, maintain, and sell your information, okay? They do not hold or own your accounts, your debt, okay? That's on the other side, the data furnisher, the account holder, okay? Not all data furnishers are account holders because you can actually have the original creditor and then you can have the debt collector that is associated with it, right? But we're talking about the actual company that holds the debt, such as Capital One. So you have Capital One, you owe them $5,000. They report this to the credit bureaus and they're basically showing everyone that, hey, you're either paying on time or you are not paying at all, or you're paying late, or you are good and then you paid late. Whatever it is, your payment history is now reporting with the credit bureaus, and Capital One pays to get this information reported to the credit bureaus. And that's why you don't see all of your accounts reported on all three bureaus. What you're basically telling me is that when you go and you remove this from your credit report, now you no longer owe this debt. Why? It was just deleted from a database. See, your credit report is just a query, a search run on a massive database because they report millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of accounts for millions of consumers, 270 scorable consumers, right? So now all of this information is in these databases, and that's along with the actual dispute letters that you send out to the credit bureaus. They're all scanned into these databases, every single letter, and that's how they know that you are sending out a template, because it's been received before, and they know that because they scan every letter in. And that's how it gets verified as accurate without any sort of investigation. Okay, so in case you didn't know that, smash that like. All right, so here is what you're basically telling me. You're telling me that just because I send in a dispute letter and get something removed from a database, right? So now we're not going to have Capital One on here. All right, now that's gone. Now, all of a sudden, it's magic. You no longer owe that debt, right? How does that make sense? In what world and what universe does that make sense? Where did you get that information from? Who told you that? Who's telling you that you no longer have to pay just because it's removed from a database? It does not work like that. That debt still exists with Capital One or with whoever holds that debt, whether it's Portfolio Recovery or Midland or Calvary. You have to keep these things at the forefront of your mind when you're disputing. Just because it's removed does not mean that you no longer owe that debt. So yes, legally, you still have to go and pay it, right? Another thing that I heard this week was just because, and this goes way back, I've talked about this back in 2017, just because the debt is not with the original creditor anymore, you don't have to pay them. Well, why don't you tell that to the judge when you go and get sued? Well, if it were like that, wouldn't they just not sue you because they don't have the legal right to sue you and report the debt? And debt collection industries would, the debt collection industry would not exist if it were like that, right? So I'm not trying to, put a judgment on anybody. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to educate you and fill in that knowledge gap, because it's going to assist you in permanently removing those negative items and moving on with your life when you actually have the right set of mind and you understand the process. Everything is about processes. That is why so many consumers don't legally and permanently remove their negative items, because they don't have the right mindset. They don't understand the process, or they refuse to understand the process, right? They want to just think that you can go in and screw up your credit, get these horrible credit scores, and remove it all, sweep it under the rug, and do it again. Yes, I do a legal and permanent credit sweep, which you can see if I can do one for you using that link right there, my740.com. But that's only the beginning of it. You have to send out dispute rounds. They're called rounds for a reason, kind of like going into a fight with like the UFC or boxing, right? Obviously, there's going to be a winner at the end, and hopefully that's going to be us, but there's a process to get there. You don't just send out one dispute letter and then, wham, ma'am, thank you, ma'am, all your negative items are gone. And you know what? It only took 30 days versus the 5 years that you waited to rack up negative debt versus the 2 years it took you to build your credit report to begin with, okay? So even though there's a process, you have a due process to dispute inaccurate information on your credit report. And that is the process that we use. That is the process that's going to remove these negative items permanently. We don't want to suppress it. We don't want it to be gone for 30 days. We don't want it to be deleted and then come right back on because we used the wrong process. No. When you do it the right way, they are gone. They are gone permanently. They're not going to come back. And you're going to allow yourself to actually sleep better at night, knowing that, hey, you know what? I got this bankruptcy off. I got these collections off. I got this foreclosure off. I got these late payments off. Or even if it's just one measly medical bill, all right? Doesn't matter what it is. When you do it the right way, you know that you're going to be able to remove those negatives, increase your score, move on with your life, get the credit that you want and that you deserve. You deserve to have the lifestyle within reason, obviously, that you want, and you can go and achieve that. But when you have realistic expectations, when you realistically look at this and say, you know what, there's no pot of gold at the end of some rainbow that doesn't exist. No, but what there is the opportunity to have a second chance to make a first impression. And that is exactly what this is. That is exactly what we're doing. All right.